to this week's Soul Food Reflection. I'm David Steinbrenner, your communication coordinator. Now, I'm a big Charlie Brown and Peanuts fan, and when I was a kid, I used to love watching this one. It's a great pumpkin, Charlie Brown. And in it, Linus offers this advice. He says, in polite company, there are three things you should never discuss: religion, politics, and the great pumpkin. And by the very fact that you are watching a religious devotional video here means we've already crossed that line. It is really hot outside. It's not fall, and Halloween is not just around the corner, so I think we can safely avoid the great pumpkin conversation for now. But politics is everywhere, and it's always everywhere, and we are definitely swimming in it. The world is in the midst of this COVID-19 crisis, and certainly in our country, we're having some really necessary and important conversations on racial justice. But this has gotten me thinking not just about the what's of politics and maybe what we should think and what we should do, but I've just wanted to stop and reflect on how, as Christians, we approach politics and social life in particular. There was an interview that I read just this week that's actually from a few years ago with a Lutheran theologian named Robert Jensen, whom I really like. And in it, Jensen was asked this question. It says, accounts of theological and political disputes in this country often pit the religious right against mainline or liberal Protestantism. And a church like Trinity would fit in that mainline Protestant camp. So Jensen was asked, how would you describe the main features of the American religious landscape, and where would you locate yourself on this? And I love Jensen's response. He says, contrasting liberal or left with conservative or right yields, in my view, a map of very limited use. For my own part, I've been labeled both conservative and liberal, depending upon who was disapproving of me. Been there. And so Jensen goes on to say, at least theologically, there are two effective divisions between American Christians, and we're only going to hit on one in this quote. He says, one of those divisions is between those for whom the gospel is itself the norm of all truth, and the person of Christ, therefore, the foundational metaphysical fact. Some big college words there. And there are those Christians for whom some other agenda or theory is the overriding norm. Now, I love Jensen's response and believe he's fundamentally right. As news comes at us and as we engage really important issues and realities that face us, it's crucial as followers of Jesus to have as our starting point for reflection and action the question of who is Jesus and what is the good news about him? How does this gospel shape how we see the nature of life and who and how God calls us to be in this world in light of that gospel? Now, obviously, none of us follows Christ perfectly, and frankly, none of us knows how to follow Christ perfectly, which is why we need each other, and we need to talk and have conversations and disagreements in love. But any of those conversations arguably really need to start with that question of who is Jesus and what is Jesus like, and then we go from there in looking at what is happening around us. Although the Apostle Paul was writing this in 1 Corinthians 3:11, to believers who are factionalizing around other religious leaders, I think this works well for politics. He says, for no one can lay any foundation other than the one that has been laid. That foundation is Jesus Christ. And so Trinity Avenue, as you go forth this week, remember who you love and who you follow, and start there. Jesus Christ is Lord, and he loves you, and he loves all of us. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you this week and forevermore. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Go in peace, Trinity.